I'm here in West Palm Beach. This is actually West Palm Beach, the town officially. We're at a library in West Palm Beach, Florida, and we've gathered some ModPo folks around, and we're looking at a poem by Philip Whalen called The Prophecy. We're going to see if we can make some sense out of it. So here we go. I'll read the poem, and then we're going to start. The Prophecy. The present, assailable at any moment, we pretend, from Russia, yet eternal, an absolute, raised above and beyond any chance or possible changing, subject to the weather, to my imagination. It shall not stand. The poem is dated by Philip Whalen, July 16th, 1962. Okay, so let's start with the title. Who wants to say something about the title?
So the prophecy, when you see those words, the first thing you think about is the Bible or some similar religious book. There's a prophecy of the end times, and these might be the end times that people are thinking of. The date at the very end is very relevant, 1962, maybe the Cuban Missile Crisis was around.
Boy, you went right to the big topic, didn't you? Just
Prophecy.
playing around.
Armageddon.
And so a beat poet is predicting Armageddon. Yeah, okay. And beat poets and prophesying, it's a real mode for a beat poet to be bardic and ecstatic and to make big claims, okay. Yeah. The present, assailable at any moment, we pretend from Russia. Now it's time to repeat that wonderful statement you said about pretending.
So, there was a sort of straw man of Russia raised by people like Joseph McCarthy, who are pointing to that threat in order to achieve their own political aims. So that was the pretense. There was a real threat, but maybe it was not of the level that it was made out to be.
And let's just assume that a left-wing, beat, Buddhist, penniless, left coast poet would be among those, Philip Whalen, would be among those who would doubt that Russia is the only possible way in which the United States is assailable. So that's where we're heading. The present, assailable at any moment, we pretend from Russia, yet eternal. Who's got that? Yet eternal.
We do.
Yes, we do.
And I think Allah is superstar.
Yes, superstar.
Roshan is a
Okay, well-
superstar. This is a stipulation.
Yet is a discounting term. It's followed up by eternal, an absolute. Eternal kind of brings to mind God. An absolute brings to mind truth.
Capital E. Yeah.
Capital E. So it's discounting, this attack, attack from Russia. It's discounting the attack from Russia, but it's saying yet, God is there, truth is there. You want to take raised above.
Well, the way I read it, it was a little different.
Mm.
It seems to me that yet eternal refers to the present. He says the
Refers
present.
back. It's a different thing than the present.
Yes, it is. He says the present is assailable at any moment, yet it's eternal. The present will always be. Somehow, I don't know.
Well, what's the difference between the present, which is assailable and causes us to pretend, and something that's eternal, absolute?
Assailable is something that could be destroyed. It's assailable. It's
Well, eternal and absolute is not. Right.
right.
Yes, so what's the difference between the poem beginning with the present, where we are feeling assailable, and turning after the word yet to eternal, absolute, and raised above? Do you guys have the raised above?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, so what is raised above, do you think?
What is it that's being raised above grammatically? We've all been reading this language for a long time, so we're facing a poem that uses ambiguity, but we do have to decide grammatically what is being raised above and beyond. Is it
Time.
time is being
Time.
raised above?
Time is being raised above. It's beyond any, which is ahead of where we're supposed to be, and beyond any chance of or possible changing. Time is eternal. Time is absolute.
Well, give me a word, Suzanne, I'm being a stickler.
Go ahead.
Give me a word that's already happened in the poem to which raised above is referring. Are we
The
raising
present.
above the present?
Raising above the present.
Okay, is everybody with that? Are we raising above the present? Marcy, Lynn? Judy, are we raising above the present? The present, assailable at any moment, we pretend, from Russia, yet eternal. How about if we just try to translate that into plain English? So far, you want to try it?
So I think that the concept of eternal here is that there is an eternal truth. So no matter how the propaganda machine of the time tries to distort the truth, there's an eternal truth that is present, and that eternal truth is actually not assailable, whether from Russia or from anywhere else.
So what is it that's not, what fact or what prophecy is not assailable? I asked that question in the hardest way I know how. But you're an MD. You're not a PhD though, so it's getting hard.
Correct. So if I have to diagnose what is eternal, it is the truth. You know, you cannot, truth with a capital T, you cannot change it, you cannot assail it. It's always
So
going to be there.
that's brilliant, thank you. The last line is in all caps, and it is, "It shall not stand," and it's time for you to be historical and tell us where that's from. Uh-oh. It's Franco, it's the first fascism, it's the first test of fascism when the Spanish Republic, which was a left-wing republic elected democratically in 1932, was overthrown by a coup staged by the generals under Franco. We had a right-wing military coup allied with the fascists, literally with Nazis and Mussolini, overthrowing a republic. And the phrase, "it shall not stand," was a phrase of the anti-fascists, the very first anti-fascists, some of whom were American, but they were over there in Spain fighting for the republic against the prohibition of their own government. The Roosevelt government was neutral.
Ernest Hemingway, I think.
Hemingway was there, and many other writers were there, and it is a literary thing, and it was very much alive in the memories of the beat poets. And the beat poets recalled the romance of the Spanish Civil War. It shall not stand. Okay, so he ends with all caps, a famous anti-fascist political slogan. Now, what are we going to do with that? It's quite a dramatic thing to say at the end of a poem called The Prophecy. What are we going to do with it?
Well, he's gone from telling us the present, no matter what we think, is here, it's absolute, and then he says, but it might change with my imagination because my brain is so powerful. And then he goes back again, maybe not to where he was, but to a different place and says, it shall not stand.
So is he saying what the president of the United States in October 1962, a few months later, would say of those ships that are steaming toward Cuba? And he said, the President JFK said, what? What did he say? Come on, all you history buffs. He said, we shall blockade Cuba. And they won't, and if they try, it shall not stand. They shall not pass. No, he's prophesying, in a way, prophesying that standoff. However, his it is not the Russian boats assembling nuclear warheads in Cuba, and it's not the line drawn by the anti-fascists in Spain. This it is something else.
It's the fascism in America.
Do you think so?
I think so.
I think that it is probably pretty transcendent, raised above and beyond. How are we going to deal with that it? What happens if I say it's raining in southern Florida? It's raining. What kind of use of the word it is it? It is raining. In American idiom, in American English, the word it is very rarely used that way. You don't say the rain is falling. You say it is raining. Has anybody ever thought about how odd that is? What kind of it is that?
The current conditions. The current conditions is that it is raining.
Where's the agent?
The conviction. It's such a
Where is
strong-
the subject, the grammatical subject? It would be what?
The rain.
The rain isn't raining. It gives rain. God gives rain. The conditions give rain. There's no agency. It.
Is it the weather when you're talking about rain? It is not the weather?
It is the weather. It's raining, but it's a very odd locution. I think this it is a relative, a cousin of that. So let's try to read it shall not stand, where the it is an absolute raised above and beyond any chance or possible changing.
That throws us back to the present, but what does he mean the present is not, shall not stand? I don't get that.
The more things change, the more they remain the same.
That
in
seems to
sense.
be the gist of the poem about politics. So if you and I are having an argument, let's say, and it's 1961, and I'm saying, oh no, the Russians, this is a very particular enemy, and we have to do very particular contingent things to stop them. And your argument against that would be, in the Whalen sense, might be,
There will always be some evil that we are fighting, even though it may not truly be evil in the context of history over time.
we must pretend that we are assailable at any moment by anything but our consciousness, by anything but the way the present behaves.
There's a song by Sting. Mr. Khrushchev says, "We will bury you. I don't subscribe to this point of view. The Russians love their children too." So it's one of those things, I think.
What if he's
It-
satirizing it? What if he's ironizing it? That's a standard statement about drawing a line in the sand, which we all know when we're parenting doesn't work.
Mhm.
You cannot draw a line. The red line, I think that's famous President Barack Obama drew
Line
a
in
red
the
line.
sand, right.
Line in the sand. There have been many politicians drawing lines in sands. Poets generally, the poets we study in ModPo, are generally not lines in sand drawers. Think about Emily Dickinson. No way. Why? Why don't they draw lines in sands? Why does it shall not stand, back to you on this, why will it shall not stand need to be revised? Keep thinking about the weather.
Changes. Change is eternal.
Because change is eternal. It will change. It must change. And the imagination and the weather are subject to change. And that is the eternal present.